Welcome to today's Tech Talk, Level Up the Gamer's Experience using Amazon MSK. We will be starting in just a couple of minutes as we allow others to log in and settle in. Okay. Welcome to today's Tech Talk, Level Up the Gamer's Experience using Amazon MSK. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining today's Tech Talk. My name is Dan, and I run the business operations for Mactores, and I'll be your host for today's Tech Talk. And I'm excited to introduce you to today's team of experts. But first, just a couple of housekeeping notes. One, we encourage you to ask your questions throughout today's Tech Talk. We'll be covering a lot of important material from different perspectives. So ask your questions. We have a team of experts standing by to provide you the information that you need and to do any follow-up if necessary. To do this, please use your Q&A icon below in your Zoom webinar control panel. It's just down there at the bottom right-hand side. Get familiar with that. We'll be putting your answers into your questions and look forward to those as throughout. Also, for attending today's Tech Talk, we will be sending you a $100 AWS account credit to the email you used for registration. These emails will be going out throughout the presentation, so please let me know through the chat function or the Q&A function if you have any issues receiving the credit. You can also email directly dan@mactores.com, and we'll be sure to get those $100 AWS credits to you. For today's agenda, we have a lot of great insights to share. Our agenda covers the customer use cases, diving deep into 5 specific challenges unique to the gaming industry and the solutions available. We'll also point out additional solutions in order to provide you a broad understanding of approaches you can take for your use case. Now, to help me do this, I'm joined by my game tech industry experts, and they include Gagan Bromi with AWS, and Gagan is our specialist solution architect for Amazon MSK, and we'll be providing deep technical insights today. David Setbon with also AWS. David works with our customers and is a gaming analytics specialist, and will be sharing insights and trends in gameplay. Also, David will be introducing our customer use cases throughout the Tech Talk. Bal Harar, my colleague at Mactores. Bal is our senior principal for our data analytics sciences team, and will be outlining the various challenges experienced within the game industry. And he'll be providing his many insights into problem solving and how we approach the solutions we'll be discussing today. Now, I see a couple of you on today's Tech Talk that are new to us at Mactores. So let me just quickly introduce Mactores, as I'm sure everyone's familiar with AWS, but Mactores is a longtime AWS Advanced partner. We're based in Seattle, Washington, and we support customers all over the US and globally. At Mactores, we specialize in helping customers modernize their end-to-end data and analytics platforms. We've been doing this in the cloud for over 12 years now by applying the latest automation technologies in data analytics, AI and ML, and DevOps. We design, deploy, integrate, and manage rapid migration and transformation solutions to accelerate enterprise data platform migrations using our automations. We engage with our customers through education, strategic consulting, and deployment services through our focused practice areas and services. This is including our customers to help migrate their Kafka workloads to Amazon MSK. So now let's dive into our Tech Talk. David, why don't you provide us some industry perspective and then take us through a customer example? And then I'll have Bal and Gagan join in with our Tech Talk, discussing the challenges and solutions. So David, the floor is yours.
Sure, thanks, Dan. To start off, from an industry perspective, what we have seen is that there's been a shift from physical games to digital downloads. over 80% of games are now purchased through digital downloads, whereas in 2014, it was only about 60%. Right, so that leaves about 20% of games are now bought in retail stores like Target, Walmart, GameStop, et cetera. Because of the shift, studios now collect billions of gameplay event data and start analyzing this data to make business and game development decisions. We have also seen that AAA game studios are adopting the free-to-play model. So the AAA studios historically sold their console games to retail stores for about $60 US. And now these same studios, right, they're building blockbuster titles with about $100 million budget, and they create titles over 3 to 4 years, which have shifted to literally giving the games away for free and adopting this free-to-play model that mobile game studios have been employing for years. But however, you got to keep in mind that the free-to-play model only works if you collect the petabytes of data on the gameplay sessions and then gain insights on how to improve the game and how to increase in-app purchases and ad revenue. We have also seen that because of the unique environment that we're in today with the pandemic, that has increased gameplay and actually brought new player types. There's been some estimates that suggest game revenue has increased about 20% to around $180 billion US dollars in 2020. And this increase in gameplay and new players not only increases the volume of data, but the importance of a scalable analytics architecture that is needed to collect and deliver real-time insights into new players and behaviors with their interests. And lastly, what we've seen is the cross-platform play and player expectation, which is really that players now expect to play their game console on the console, PC, or the mobile, and expect not only have their game sessions stored, but also receive customized offers tailored specifically to them. This is irrespective of what platform they're playing on and when they start and stop and move from platform to platform. So because of those trends, right, you may be asking, why build in the cloud and how can this help me, right? Before getting into some of those details of reduced downtime and increased productivity, what I really want to call out is that players expect games to have regular and compelling updates. As developers are imagining future gaming that delight players and require infrastructure and solutions to support their vision, they need these environments that can scale to tens of millions of players anywhere in the world. They also need streaming services and databases that can ingest and process terabytes to petabytes of ever-changing data. We also know that the variety and volume of data that are generated from various sources can help decision-making for these updates. So analytics and machine learning are so important to allow game developers to action insights and create a new and immersive gameplay. Developers need faster time to market and more efficient workflows when building the next new game or moving workloads to the cloud. We know how important it is to build faster, run smarter, and actually grow your games. So as you think about all of this and you're building the cloud, right, go to reduce downtime and save costs, which could allow you to improve gameplay and minimize latency with backend infrastructure that's closer to your players. This really allows you to decrease operational costs during low demand periods and using serverless architectures with automatic scaling. Think about increased productivity and efficiency by deploying new game features faster, expanding that capacity to meet player demand and enhancing game monitoring as you start to think about these games. As I mentioned before about the free-to-play model, extending the life of your game and continuously innovating so that you can provide these services to your players and keep them engaged longer. The ability to provision and deprovision services as you need with using AWS and managed services is really provides the ability for you to get a game to market faster and sell fast if it actually doesn't take off. And lastly, think about enabling game innovation, building high available multiplayer games with global outreach, automatic scaling, and intelligent matchmaking. So not only are these benefits help to accelerate game development, but it's also important to think about how you can grow your business by creating a fun and innovative player experience. Video games are deceptively complicated, whether you're making a AAA console title or hyper-casual mobile game. Your audience is most likely not interested in what's under that hood, but they do care about that experience that you're providing to them and having your player play your game in a more consistent fashion. As they do this, your game will develop and generate more and more data than you've ever expected. So this data drives important game design, monetization, and engagement strategies that will help you grow your game. And in this tech talk, what we'll do is we'll review a few customer examples and use cases outlining how customers are using AWS and more specifically managed services to alleviate these challenges.
Okay, David, this is important knowledge share. So if anyone has any questions about David's key points, please use the Q&A feature in your toolbar below. So now, David, can you frame our first customer example for our discussion today?
Absolutely, more than happy to do that. So for the first customer example, what we found is that they needed a solution to not only use data to enhance the player's experience, but also that data was so important for supporting key business decisions and providing the right information in real time. And to start off this first customer use case, we had a customer that was a little over 10 years old. They were a mid-sized game development company that was making Flash games for web browsers in the past. And then over time, they started to see a decrease in their user traffic and realized with the proliferation of smartphones and how much everyone was using their phones, they needed to refocus their business for mobile game development. Fortunately, the company was already using data to help drive their business decisions. And when they decided to pivot into mobile gaming space, they leveraged that same data-driven thought processes as before. The company released a digitally downloadable game with online services, and they knew that they'd be constantly iterating and improving that game, right? So for them, it was critically important that they had the right information at the right time to answer questions about how the game was performing and the current users to inform the decisions and the changes that they needed to play to keep those customers and those players engaged. They knew they would have continuously to iterate and provide that gaming experience with the intent of leading to those longer sessions. And those longer sessions, the purpose was really to help increase purchases and revenue through both ads and in-app purchases. They've also realized that the player usage patterns can vary widely, and a game's success in the marketplace is very unpredictable. This made it challenging to build and maintain solutions that scale with your player population while remaining cost-effective and easy to manage. The customer was looking for a solution where they can reduce their operational overhead while still using modern technology and game telemetry to gain insights. They were looking for these turnkey user engagement and analytics solutions that provide an easy way to begin capturing analytics from their game. However, the game developers wanted to centralize this data in common formats for integration with their data lakes and analytics applications. The solution that we're going to discuss is about this customer ingesting, storing, and of course, analyzing their data from their game while managing as little infrastructure as possible. It enabled them to stream the ingestion or enable them to ingest streaming data and gain insights within minutes.
Okay, David, this is really good groundwork for our discussion today. A lot to take in there, but I'm gonna now want to bring in Gagan and Bal to help us get a little deeper into this. So Bal, take us deeper into this use case, if you would.
Absolutely, thank you, Dan. So as David was mentioning, the customer was pivoting from old school Flash games to mobile games, and the entire ecosystem of their gaming engine changed due to the nature of mobile games. And customer was really looking to build an event-driven system which would analyze, process, and take actions as the gamers are taking decisions in the games which they are playing. Mactores here stepped in and helped customer to build a event-driven pipeline through Kafka and help them build and migrate their gaming engines to more container-based and event-based systems on Amazon platform. So the primary challenge with the customer was the scalability of the platform and manageability of the infrastructure. This is where we went back to the table and identified MSK, which is a managed Kafka cluster, would help them scale their operations, at the same time would have a fantastic integration with a lot of out-of-the-box managed services to manage their gaming engines. To take this to the next level, customer was also investing heavily into machine learning services and advanced analytics. to help take real-time decisions as gamers are taking those decisions. This is where we integrated SageMaker with MSK and started using SageMaker models to score and help customers with right kind of recommendations within the game, as well as enhance the game telemetry with a lot of the data based on the database transactions which are happening in their databases. So this overall, their ecosystem from being a very static, monolithic application to a more event-driven, scalable, stream-based decision-making gaming engine. So David, as we had approached the customer and solved the problem, what was the customer feedback from the business perspective?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? So what we saw were that the developers really wanted to focus on building fun, innovative games. They weren't nearly as interested as, and I think it's probably pretty obvious, right, about spending time on and handling that infrastructure and focusing their efforts on some of that development aspect. What we also saw for this specific customer was that they were looking to increase that player engagement and how often their players were playing, leading to the opportunity for your players to complete some of those purchases. So they were really, really focused on some of those areas as we were going into these, as we were going through this customer journey.
Fantastic. So let's take it the first problem which the customer was facing was to A, handle the real-time events, and B, to also use machine learning models to score them. As customer grew pretty fast with their mobile games, they were looking at about 2 million users generating about 800 million events every day. This needed a massive scalability for the Kafka cluster to support the messages coming from all different mobile games and the game telemetry which has been generated. And also scale their machine learning models to help them score and build recommendation in the gaming engine to enhance the in-game experience. So Mactores here not only build a Kafka-based event-driven system with their microservices, but we extended their gaming engine in Amazon ECS, which is well integrated with MSK, and SageMaker, which also integrates with MSK to provide enhancements to the gaming experience in real time. This is not the end of the story, but this is where it starts, because MSK is not only providing them the scalability and integration with these platforms, but also has many important manageability features. So Gagan, let's dive a little deeper and understand what does MSK has to offer from the infrastructure scalability perspective.
Sure, absolutely. So for that kind of traffic and that kind of events, we definitely need a underlying sys infrastructure that can provide that ease of scalability when you need it. Now, if you look at the traditional way of managing the Kafka clusters or designing the Kafka clusters, we had to plan ahead for the capacity required for running the Kafka cluster. And many a times that meant over-provisioning the Kafka clusters to keep the future growth into perspective. And when we did add more brokers eventually in the future, the process still involved time and effort to ensure the hardware procurement, the operating system installation and patching, installation of Kafka, and ensuring that the right automation is in place, which will perform the installation, keeping in mind the Kafka configuration best practices. With Amazon MSK, users can now scale their clusters with a click of a button or by using APIs and SDKs. And the scaling options provided with MSK not just takes care of horizontal scaling by adding more brokers to the Kafka cluster, but it also allows users to add more storage by increasing the storage on an as-needed basis. Users can also perform vertical scaling for these brokers by changing the node types or the broker node types for the MSK cluster without having to reassign the Kafka topic partitions. The next thing I want to talk about is the integration. And that is an important aspect which we see a lot of users desire to have a complete ecosystem of tools and solutions. And Amazon MSK not just provides you with a streaming solution, but also strong integration with the feature-rich services and tools offered by AWS. Amazon MSK is an AWS service which provides you those integrations with other AWS services that you can take advantage of in your application. So for example, Amazon tightly integrates with Amazon's data migration service, or DMS, which allows users to pull data out of your databases and push that data in real time or near real time into MSK. Now, for example, in this specific customer use case, the user utilized DMS to get the change data capture happening in the transactional data store upstream, which holds the in-game purchase transaction details for the end users. Now, this data is put into Kafka topics for Kafka streams to pick up and combine that information with the in-game telemetry, which is already existing in the Kafka streams or Kafka topics. And this was utilized to provide the tailored recommendations back to the end users. The next thing is the ever so popular AWS Lambda also has a native trigger that works with MSK. So that can be, so as the messages flow into MSK, users can configure Lambda functions to do whatever processing that they want. Now in this use case, for example, user utilize AWS Lambda to invoke SageMaker models to build those trainings and provide the recommendations back to the users as well. We also have a strong integration with Amazon Kinesis Data Analytics for Apache Flink for streaming analytics use cases. And we can discuss this a little later in the conversation when we have some more use cases around it. At AWS, security is job zero, and we provide integration with AWS Certificates Manager for private certificate authorities, which can be used for setting up the mutual TLS authentication with MSK. And we also have an integration with Amazon Key Management Service, or KMS, which provides the ability to securely encrypt the data volume.
This is fantastic. And these are the ecosystem integrations which was leveraged by the customer to not only deliver the streaming analytics and the streaming in-game telemetry streaming to their data analytics team, but also to provide the security infrastructure needed out of the box for the entire platform. But the story evolves from here. The customer really wanted to look at a solution which would help them alleviate a lot of operations and monitoring problems. The customer used out-of-the-box Datadog to monitor their entire platform, and they wanted to figure out how can we build an observability pattern for the entire pipeline, starting from the ingestion point at Kafka to the gaming engine to the decision-making which has been done by the machine learning tools. And this is where the Prometheus integration of Datadog proved really useful for us to help integrate the broker logs, to integrate all the partition management, and at the same time help us understand the scalability of the need of the scalability of the Kafka cluster and generate alerts and build an entire SRE for the customer to manage the entire gaming platform. MSK also offers out-of-the-box integration with LinkedIn's Cruise Control, which is a very well-known tool used for partition management and broker management for Kafka MSK cluster, which helped them operationalize Kafka and monitor from the scalability perspective to manage millions and billions of messages which they were receiving from the in-game telemetry of their users. This not only changed the perspective of the customer to move towards in-game telemetry to be used by the gaming engine, but their infrastructure team was also now able to look at the entire platform in one dashboard to take a right kind of actions on the right kind of alerts and to take proactive sort of actions as things are moving and as users are growing further. So Prometheus integration with Datadog is one aspect of MSK. There are many other options in monitoring, and there are many other aspects to MSK which are needed to be monitored. So Gagan, I think it's necessary for us now to make this topic a little wider and understand what other monitoring aspects does MSK offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, getting insights into the underlying infrastructure is extremely important, and that goes without saying for any service that you pick. Amazon MSK is no different in this case, and MSK provides multiple different mechanisms to audit and monitor the Kafka cluster by the users. Now, MSK gives users the ability to audit the broker logs by allowing the users to deliver Apache Kafka broker logs to one or more of the destinations. And these destinations include Amazon CloudWatch logs, Amazon S3, and Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose. You can easily extend your log files to be made available in, say, for example, Amazon Elasticsearch service through Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose, which should now provide you the ability to extend your log analytics use cases to now include your Kafka workloads and applications as well. MSK has a strong integration with Amazon CloudWatch. Without mentioning, it provides a strong native integration for users, and users can choose from different level of monitoring metrics that CloudWatch provides. We have the default metrics for MSK provided by CloudWatch, which comes at no extra cost. But if the users want deeper metrics on per broker or per topic per broker level, they can select these levels to get even granular level of monitoring. MSK also provides users the ability to enable open monitoring with Prometheus, where users can enable GMX exporter or node exporter or both on the MSK Kafka brokers. And talking about open monitoring, which is a perfect use case that we are discussing here. In this example, customer used open monitoring to extend their existing monitoring pipeline. And using open monitoring for MSK, users can keep their existing metric pipeline when using MSK. This allows the users to continue using the third-party metrics integrators like Datadog, Sumo Logic, Lenses.io, and so on. In this particular instance, the open monitoring capabilities was really well leveraged to include to utilize Prometheus for extending these pipelines. Now, it's not about the monitoring, but there are some other important key features that I want to talk about which comes along with MSK. And the first one is MSK is a fully managed service that runs open source version of Apache Kafka. This means that users can bring in the existing toolings or frameworks or plugins from partners or even from Apache Kafka community, and they will work with MSK. MSK also allows users to integrate LinkedIn's cruise control to rebalance the MSK cluster. Now, in this particular example, customer utilized very successfully cruise control to manage the day in, day out operations of the MSK cluster. And with cruise control, users can detect and fix anomalies, as well as monitor the state and the health of the cluster. And the customer, you can also think about balancing the traffics and managing the MSK brokers. The possibility can really be extended with cruise control. The other part is the important metrics that you have to monitor. And one of the important metrics that MSK provides along with cruise control, CloudWatch is by default is a customer lag metrics. And monitoring consumer lag allows users to identify the slow and stuck consumers that are not keeping up with the latest data available in Kafka topic. And when necessary, users can take remedial actions if needed. To monitor consumer lags, users can use either Amazon CloudWatch or open monitoring with Prometheus, or they can even use Burrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vikan. And in this particular use case, we not only extended the lag metrics to monitor, but also use of machine learning models to predict the bandwidth usage of these users, since they were mobile gaming users, to provide gaming engine optimization to optimally use the bandwidth for each consumer, so they could get the best in-game experience while they are moving around and their bandwidth keeps on shifting. So the consumer lag matrix also provides a lot of enhancements to your existing gaming engine, also provides a real-time update that how the game is being rendered or what kind of actions are being lagged at the consumer end based on their bandwidth. So the monitoring not only stops at the SRE level or DevOps level, it also can be used by your gaming engines to take decisions to enhance gaming experience. And to take it further, the customer was really invested in the platform to build games and enhance their team to build better games. So they wanted to avoid an undifferentiated heavy lifting of infrastructure management and security management. And when they approached us, one of the challenges they wanted to solve was to build a build an ecosystem where their start to end, from the streamer to the decision-making platform, which is the gaming engine, everything is self-managed, and they didn't have to invest a lot of infrastructure team to manage those. So this is where we selected MSK specifically because it has a tight integration with Elastic Container Services and App Mesh and a couple of other serverless and managed services of AWS, which provided them a complete ecosystem of services to host their gaming engine and their analytics services out of the box through these managed services. So this was a total transformation from the game development as well as gaming engine perspective for the customer to move towards more containerized, event-driven, self-managed infrastructure to alleviate a lot of their infrastructure management challenges. Now, since we are on this topic, it is necessary for understand what does fully managed really mean from the Kafka perspective. So Gagan, I think it's the right time for us to start discussing what does fully managed mean and what does MSK offer when we say it's fully managed?
Sure. And let me tell you something. So I've been part of a DevOps team in my previous roles before AWS, and I know that administration and performing maintenance activities on Kafka cluster can be significantly time-consuming. And especially if you're using Kafka cluster on self-managed infrastructure, like an on-premise hardware, or say on Amazon EC2 instance, for example. Users have to shoulder the responsibility of a number of tasks, such as patching the operating system, installing security patches, Kafka installation and patching, version upgrades of Kafka, designing the high availability and scalability of Kafka clusters. That's a lot of things for users to take care of. Now, when moving to a managed Kafka cluster with Amazon MSK, users do not have to perform these undifferentiated heavy lifting, and they can focus on building better streaming application, which adds value to their business. The other important aspect of using MSK is that MSK encourages best practices around high availability and wants users to utilize multiple availability zones when deploying MSK clusters. MSK does not charge the inter-cluster data transfer costs. Things like replication of topics or communication between brokers and Zookeeper Ensemble does not result in data transfer cost between different availability zones in the same region. The next important area is the version upgrades, and that's an area of concern for a lot of users when upgrading Kafka clusters, because it takes a lot of time to plan and execute these upgrades, and it results to a significant resources being consumed for a task which does not really add value to the overall business. MSK allows users to perform Kafka version upgrades with no downtime, assuming that Kafka topics are configured with the appropriate replication copies of the topics. Users no longer have to babysit their upgrade process. They can simply trigger the upgrade process from AWS console or by using APIs or SDKs. The next thing I'll talk about is security, starting with the connectivity and how the clients can communicate to Kafka brokers. And we already talked about how important security is for AWS. When users deploy MSK cluster, the broker nodes and the Zookeeper nodes are deployed in an isolated and dedicated VPC, which is managed by Amazon MSK. The broker nodes and Zookeeper nodes are available to the user's VPC, subnet, and the security group based on the configurations which are specified during the cluster creation. Now, when a broker is made available, accessible to the clients, which are consumers and the producers in the user's VPC through Elastic Network Interface, ENIs, and these ENI allows users to govern the access through security groups, which will dictate the source and the type of ingress and egress traffic that is allowed on your brokers. Continuing on security, the other important aspect is encryption. And Amazon MSK provides data encryption options that you can use to meet the strict data management requirements. Now let's start with encryption at rest. Amazon MSK integrates with AWS Key Management Service, KMS, to offer transparent server-side encryption. MSK always encrypts the data at rest. Users can specify AWS KMS customer master key that they want to use to encrypt the data volumes when creating the MSK cluster. And if the users do not specify the KMS customer master key, AWS creates an AWS managed customer master key for the user and uses it on their behalf to encrypt the volumes for the MSK cluster. Now, users also have the ability to encrypt the data in transit, and by default, MSK encrypts the data in transit between the brokers. And you can always change this and override this by this default behavior during the cluster creation. For communication between the brokers and the clients, users can specify either to allow TLS encrypted communication only, or allow both TLS and plain text communication, or allow plain text only communication. The other important aspect I want to talk about is the authentication options, since we are already on the security topic. And MSK provides four different authentication options. The first one is plain text, which is no authorization, basically, not recommended for production users, as it offers basically zero security, and it's suitable for development purposes only. Secondly is SASL Scram, which is a user password combination with username and password securely stored in AWS Secrets Manager. Now, in this case study, for example, customer leveraged Amazon Cognito with the gaming application to authenticate the end users, which in turn allowed the gaming application to write the game telemetry data into the MSK topic. And when using SASL Scram, it is highly advised that you ensure that the credentials are safely stored for the clients to access them. The third one is mutual TLS or MTLS authentication, where MSK brokers and the clients each have their own SSL certificates that they can exchange to prove they are who they are. So for example, I have an application called Application 1, and I have an SSL certificate issued for that application with Application 1 as its principal. Now that proves the identity of my application to MSK brokers when my application is communicating with MSK. Now this is a highly secure mechanism. Lastly, we have AWS IAM authentication with MSK, which we have recently introduced, and it's a standard inside of AWS. It basically is a library that you can import into your clients, and you provide API keys and key secret to prove who you are. Now, the good thing about using IAM is IAM stores all the roles and users inside AWS IAM, which provides that central place for users to manage the IAM credentials and policies, which are used across many different AWS services. And now I know, Bal, you have a few more details to add around the SASL Scram usage for this customer specifically. Why don't you talk about that a little?
Absolutely. So since customer was into mobile gaming and the customers widely download these apps, so it was important for the customer to use Scram to authenticate the mobile applications with Kafka using Scram. As Gagan mentioned, we use Cognito to send the secrets through Cognito in an encrypted fashion. But at the same time, these are the producers which are producing the data, but the consumers are the gaming engine. And the gaming engine was built and deployed in the Amazon ecosystem through ECS containers. And that is where we used AWS IAM roles to access the Kafka cluster. So it provided an end-to-end authentication, authorization, and a secure transport layer for producers to produce data through and authenticate against Kafka and use TLS to encrypt the data. At the same time, the consumers, which is the gaming engine and rest of the ecosystem like the analytics environment, to go and consume the telemetry which is coming through all these producers using, again, IAM authentication. So all of that ecosystem is tightly secured and authenticated, at the same time using TLS encryption to encrypt all the transport, which is flowing through end to end from the mobile devices to the gaming engine seamlessly without any too much efforts to take care of the security layers which are involved in each of these streaming services. And this is why customer was really appreciative of the fact that using managed services like MSK totally transformed their business and made a lot of the infrastructure decisions easier because of the managed aspect of Kafka, Amazon ECS, App Mesh, and the ecosystem which MSK extends to.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Game Tech team. I'm loving this tech talk. I can see there's been many great in-depth looks into how game tech customers can approach their challenges and find the solutions. So let's take a look into a second customer use case. So David, can you introduce our second use case? I'd like us to explore some more insights and additional approaches to solving these challenges.
Yeah, of course. So for the second customer example, we'll focus on the customer's need to use player data to identify the right players and offer other games in their portfolio. What happened was that this customer had a unique service, such as a games club, and they were looking for a way for players to sign up and further adopt that service. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of that example, right, let's take a step back and introduce the customer a little bit more. This customer is a leading mobile games developer and publisher who developed both a range of branded and original mobile games. But they also operated as an exclusive distributor for publishers like Electronic Arts. And fortunately, this customer had experienced unprecedented growth from their mobile game segment, where the average download per game skyrocketed to over 10 million. This led the customer to accumulating a significant amount of data, which was around an average of 40 gigs per second, and it was generated every day. Because of the amount of data, and they had millions of players, and because of these millions of players, they had billions of user events, they needed a way to identify players to target for these cross-selling opportunities for the Games Club. And as we know, competition for gameplay and players' time increases. LTV and monetization became more and more challenging. So what they really wanted to focus on was modernizing their tech stack, build real-time user segment solutions, and increase their ability to monetize the Game Club service.
Thank you, David. This is a really interesting use case. So Bal, please take us deeper on this one too.
Absolutely. So as David was mentioning, this customer had a event-driven system where they were already collecting a lot of data from the millions of users. So they had Kafka cluster and an event-driven system pre-built. Their core of the challenge was the scalability of the Kafka cluster. As they saw unprecedented growth in the usage and adding more games to their platform, they wanted to rely on a managed service which would scale by itself and help them alleviate a lot of infrastructure management challenges. But this was a customer who was already in motion. They already had Kafka, and the challenge was to migrate that Kafka to MSK and then extend the Kafka ecosystem to their analytics team by providing an integrated data lake, which would enable their data analytics team to build more promotions, build more analytics around it, and build machine learning models, which would help them increase their cross promotions and combine all the data with the telemetry and integrate it with the third-party providers to provide the billing and payments at the same time, do cross promotions across multiple games. So Mactores approached this problem a little differently, is to first help the customer migrate their existing Kafka infrastructure from the EC2-based self-managed Kafka to MSK, and then integrate MSK with the larger data analytics ecosystem within AWS, which would alleviate a lot of their data analytics challenges and provide them seamless integration with real-time as well as historical analysis for their machine learning as well as their analytical teams. So once this particular solution was delivered, they were really happy about the advancements of their platform. But David, I would like to know, what were the feedback once they had the data lake integration and the entire Kafka migrated to MSK?
Yeah, and from that business perspective, what this customer was hyper-focused on really was performance and high availability. And that's the reason why they were really looking at this managed service and MSK overall. So that was one of their main aspects. But secondly, they knew for Games Club, right, that they needed to increase the average revenue per user in order to make this offering sustainable. And without increasing that average revenue, there was some risk on whether or not the Games Club service would actually continue to be available to players. So this is how they were looking at it and making sure that they said, okay, we need to make sure that we're modernizing this tech stack, taking advantage of newer technology in order to focus in these areas.
Fantastic. So let us look at the first challenge which we were faced with this customer, was to first identify, assess their existing deployment in Kafka and provide a migration path which would provide a zero downtime migration while their platform is already in motion. And secondly, they wanted an integrated platform which would help them look at Kafka cluster from the monitoring perspective, as well as queryability perspective, analytics perspective in a single platform. So this is where we work with the customer to build a migration strategy using MirrorMaker from their existing Kafka cluster, where their brokers and partitions were already being consumed by the producers and consumers. And at the same time, integrate all of this ecosystem with an observability pattern and provide an analytics ecosystem over it. So we work with the customer to use MirrorMaker to migrate the Kafka infrastructure from EC2 based systems to MSK, while providing almost zero downtime cutover from their EC2 based Kafka cluster to MSK, and extended using Prometheus, the Lenses IO integration with and cruise control to provide them operational enhancements to all the MSK management and extend their Kafka features to provide SQL-based querying over Kafka cluster, which helped their analytics team to enhance and use a lot of the in-game telemetry and the cross-selling of the advertisements and advertisement telemetry to in real time to take better decisions. So MirrorMaker is one of the options in migration, and it offers many different aspects to do the migration, but that's not the end. We have a couple of options for migrations, and Gagan, I think we should go through a couple of more options which has helped customer migrate their Kafka cluster.
Sure. So MirrorMaker definitely is one of the options. And in this customer example, the customer utilized and leveraged MirrorMaker to do the migration from their self-managed Kafka cluster into MSK. But for those who doesn't know what MirrorMaker is a utility bundled as a part of Apache Kafka, which helps replicate the data between two Kafka clusters. MirrorMaker is essentially a Kafka high-level consumer producer paired into one, which can be used to efficiently move data from the source cluster to the destination cluster. Now, MirrorMaker 2.0 can be deployed and run in 4 different ways. The first one is a dedicated MirrorMaker 2.0 cluster. Second one is that it can be used as a connector in a distributed Kafka Connect platform or cluster. The third one is it can also run as a standalone Connect worker. And finally, it can also be run in the legacy mode. Talking about some of the internals of what is inside MirrorMaker that you really have to care about. So MirrorMaker has a few components. The first one is MirrorMaker source connector, which is a worker process that is responsible for replicating set of topics from a single source cluster, which are hosted by the primary cluster. Next is the Mirror Sync connector, which is a worker process which consumes from the primary cluster and replicates the topics to a single sync cluster or a destination cluster, for example. There's also a Mirror Checkpoint connector, which emits the offset checkpoints of the source Kafka consumers, and these can be migrated to the new consumers, which allows you not to make those changes in the offsets. And there are multiple different modes in how you want to synchronize the checkpointings, offsets at source at the destination. Next one is the Mirror Heartbeat connector, which basically is responsible for checking the status. And then finally, we have a source connector pairs for producers to replicate the records. And there's also admin client, which is responsible for propagating the configurations of the topics and the ACLs if they change on the source. But that's not all. We also have an option to migrate using Flink, and that you can use Apache Flink. Say, for example, running on Amazon Kinesis Data Analytics for Apache Flink, which provides you a managed Flink experience, which the users can utilize. And the good thing about using the managed Flink through Kinesis Data Analytics is that the Flink applications on Kinesis Data Analytics is serverless, so teams don't have to manage the underlying infrastructure. Apache Flink on Kinesis Data Analytics has the ability to auto-scale to achieve the increased throughput requirements during your migration. It also supports multiple different types of sinks and connectors outside of Kafka. It has an exactly one semantics. And finally, you can, there are external tools for migrating the consumer offsets properly if you want to use that with Flink. And you also have any schema changes that you want to do while you're migrating. So it provides you a number of different options.
Fantastic. And we also used Flink in this use case, as we will see further, to perform real-time stream analytics for windowing and tumbling window solutions. So the first issue was to move towards a managed infrastructure and alleviate a lot of scalability issues. And the second was to enhance their data analytics teams, data analytics platform for their data analytics team while utilizing Kafka. So MSK out of the box supports integrations with the data lake solution, which AWS offers, integrating with Glue Catalog, Glue Schema Registry, helping you alleviate a lot of schema challenges while you are implementing your data analytics solution with Kafka. And this is where Mactores helped customer with not only extend their services to MSK, but also integrate MSK with their data lake, implement end-to-end data lake strategy, and use SageMaker to help their data analytics team and their AI team to build better in-game purchases and ad recommendations over the data which they are receiving in game telemetry and other sources. So the decision to move to MSK was not solely relied on the infrastructure management, but also the entire ecosystem of services which AWS provides. With this, I think, Gagan, we need to go ahead and understand what is Schema Registry and how does that really help with MSK and takes care of the schema evolution.
Sure. So AWS Glue Schema Registry makes it easy for the developers to centrally discover, control, and evolve the schemas. And schema would be the structure and the format of the data records coming into your streaming application. And it overall improves the data governance and quality of your data streaming application. Now, modern organizations in every industry use data streaming technologies in some shape or form, be it Amazon Managed Streaming for Apache Kafka, MSK, or Apache Kafka, or even Amazon Kinesis. And these technologies are used to capture and distribute data generated by applications, websites, or machines. These technologies are highly available, and they provide the decoupled layer for the data producers to produce the data for the applications and the data processors, which are performing real-time routing and analytics and machine learning. So for this customer example, the data processors were utilizing the machine learning to provide the timely recommendations and tailored recommendations to the end users, for example. But however, it's very hard to coordinate the data formats and structures across so many streams or so many systems owned by different teams. Teams have a hard time using each other's data, and when the format change, downstream teams have to adapt. They often build complex tools and custom code to ensure that data continuity when the schema evolves. Glue Schema Registry allows you to have a standardized schema stored in Glue and that you can share amongst your applications so that they can all talk and understand the data structure for each message. This also allows for schema evolution. As your application changes and grow, you can predictably evolve these schemas so that they can have backward and forward compatibility. AWS Glue Schema Registry prevents downstream failures caused by schema changes, and it boosts productivity for developers by enforcing schemas where data is produced before the data gets sent downstream. And the schema enforcement can be customized by the users using one of the 8 different compatibility modes available. And in this example, we also saw how Glue Schema Registry was leveraged to create a central catalog for the entire stream processing platform. And finally, Glue Schema Registry is serverless and it is free to use. Next, I want to talk about the Flink integration, which is an exciting topic. So MSK does have a strong integration with Amazon Kinesis data analytics for Apache Flink. And this allows you for really complex, really rich stream processing in conjunction with MSK. So you can modify, enrich, filter out events as they come into your MSK cluster for these events to be consumed by other systems. Say, for example, if you want to build a data pipeline that is ingesting into MSK and then goes through Flink, and then it lands into your data lake hosted on Amazon S3 or into Redshift or even RDS, Flink can allow you to do these complex processing. A customer in this example has used all the different windowing functions to gain these valuable insights and take informed decisions.
Fantastic, Gagan. And so one of the major use case for this customer was to finding out the advertisement clicks and events which are happening as the users are consuming their cross gaming advertisements as well as their in-game telemetry events. So Flink out of the box supports sliding window, tumbling window solutions, which can be leveraged out of the box using Kinesis data analytics over Kafka streams, which allows you to build the event-driven analytics solution and utilize them in your gaming engine as well as on the dashboards for your game developers as well as the game controllers to provide new options and new promotions as you are evolving with your advertisement strategies and at the same time advertisement investments every day if you run a platform which does cross-selling and cross promotions.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Gagan and Bal and David. We have covered a ton of services and options and insights in today's Tech Talk. I would like to let our audience know that you're not alone in taking on these various challenges in your use case. So we can help. Mactores quickly solves core business problems and drives disruptive change by applying the latest automation technologies in data analytics, AI and ML, and DevOps. We design, deploy, integrate, and manage rapid migrations and transformation solutions to accelerate enterprise data platform migrations using our automations. So I encourage you to please contact AWS and Mactores for support and questions. And for attending today's Tech Talk, Mactores and AWS are offering the AWS Kafka Migration Program combined with the Mactores Kafka Migration Accelerator. This offer is a complimentary 2-day deep dive workshop, and it will assist you with the solution in migrating to MSK, also including the Mactores Kafka Migration Accelerator, which is a valuable discovery and migration planning tool. Our teams come equipped to this workshop with ready-to-use technical assets to provide best practices and can help accelerate your migrations. In addition, for qualified customers, which we can certainly help with, we can offer incentives and credits through AWS partner funding to get the ball rolling on POCs and other workloads. So please use that chat function or send us an email to the above, and we'll get your additional information and configure this offer to meet your needs. Now, for those who are on and have your AWS credits coming your way, you should have received that email. If not, no big deal, let me know. We'll be happy to get that to you, of course. So for that, we appreciate your time in today's Tech Talk and hope this was very useful in your pursuit. And now we ask you to please have a good rest of your day.